We counted them down all year, and now it's time for the top 24 of 24, the plays of the year. At number 24, it's one of 6 walk-offs we'll see on plays of the year, baseball against Ursinus, and it's Thomas Pranzo singling in the gap, bringing in Ryan Riccio with the winning run in the bottom of the 10th inning, 4th straight year the Mules walked off Ursinus. At number 23, junior Erin DiSandro scored 3 goals in the field hockey team's 5-0 win against Vassar. It was her first hat trick and the first hat trick by a Muhlenberg field hockey player since 2016. At number 22, senior Aiden Nigaman making his first career start, 21st minute against Lebanon Valley's returning All-American, and Nigaman saves the penalty kick. The Mules go on to win 2-0. At number 21, volleyball against Dickinson, and it's sophomore Chloe Gaglione serving 5 straight aces. At number 20, we go to the wrestling mat. Paul Parise wrestling at 197 against the defending Division III National Wrestler of the Week and eventual national qualifier. Trailing 8-6 in the closing seconds, he scores this 6-point move for a 12-8 decision. At number 19, women's basketball against Haverford late in December, and off the missed three-pointer, Emily Unger saves it in bounds to Ava Connolly, who hits the 3. At number 18, we go to the golf course, and long-made putts for Alex McCauley of the men's team and Catherine Maguire of the women's team. At number 17, basketball at Moravian, and it's Giovanni Rubino trapped in the corner, but he looks up ahead and finds Arinze Achufusi, who finishes it with the dunk. At number 16, more love for soccer goalies. First for the women, Megan Stairs, who made 160 saves in the 2024 season, the most by a Mule women's soccer goalie since 1995, and 14th in Division III. And for the men, Ben Mulford, who made 9 saves, some of them spectacular, in the Centennial Conference semifinal game against Franklin and Marshall. The Mules won 2-1 to advance to their 3rd straight Centennial Conference final. At number 15, perhaps the game of the year, the softball team came from behind 6 times to defeat McDaniel 14-13 in 13 innings. The Mules with extra base hits to tie the game in extra innings. In the 11th inning, Jillian Zach with a tying triple. In the 12th inning, Danny Roban with a tying double. And then in the bottom of the 13th, Lillian Teague hits this one to right center field. Kaya Mayhe stomps on home plate with the winning run. At number 14, Katie McGrath scored 18 points in the championship game. She was named tournament MVP as the Muhlenberg women's basketball team won the championship at the York Coaches vs. Cancer Classic. It was the 2nd straight year the women's basketball team won a championship, and the men won one too. At Albright's Doubletree tournament, Giovanni Rubino earning MVP honors. He nearly had a triple-double in the championship game. And this was the first time since the 85-86 season that both the Mule men's and women's teams went on the road and won tournaments. At number 13, back to softball, Justine Bergara in a 5-0 win against Kings threw Muhlenberg's first 7-inning no-hitter since 2013. She struck out 9 in her gem.
That's in there, strike.
At number 12, another candidate for Game of the Year, women's lacrosse at Ursinus. The Mules were down by 6 at one point in the second half. Ava Malia tied it at 13-13 with 4:52 left. Nicole Steiner scored the go-ahead goal with 2:57 remaining, but the game wasn't clinched until Ellison Ervin made this great point-blank save in the closing seconds. At number 11, 3 times this season, the men's soccer team won by 1 goal on the road, scoring the go-ahead goal with less than 5 minutes remaining. At Moravian, Trevor Makuta with 9.7 seconds left. At Kane, Owen Zeller with 57 seconds left. And at TC&J, Gabe Blikshteyn with 4:31 left. And not to be outdone, the women's soccer team tied Ursinus with 9 seconds left on this goal by Eliana Nelson-Levy. At number 10, 2 Centennial Conference champions for the Mules in men's wrestling, Joey Lamparelli at 125, winning his 2nd straight championship, and at 133, it was Frank DiEsso winning gold for the first time in his career. And speaking of gold, for the 2nd straight year, the Muhlenberg men's 4x100 team won gold at the Centennial Conference Outdoor Track and Field Championships, Bryce Rothman taking the baton from Isaac Schaffer-Neitz and running the sensational second leg, and then Joshua Castro taking the baton from Christopher Short and bringing it home for the Mules in a school record time of 41:90. At number 8, Sophia Cicchetti was named Centennial Conference Player of the Year in softball. She set a school and Centennial Conference record with 47 stolen bases on the season, and she had one of the more rarer events in the sport, hitting this inside the park grand slam. At number 7, 2024 marked the varsity debut of women's wrestling as the 23rd varsity sport at Muhlenberg, and in the very first match ever for the Mules, it's Alessandra Rodriguez pinning her opponent from Delaware Valley. At number 6, more gold medals for track and field athletes, this time in field events. Indoors, Avery McNulty winning the high jump, tying the school record. Outdoors, Muhlenberg becoming the first team ever to sweep the hammer. Dylan DeMagistris for the men, setting not only a school record but a conference record. And for the women, it's Faith Fezenko setting a school record. And Noel House didn't set a school record, but he won his 3rd straight gold in the javelin. He also earned All-America honors by finishing 8th at the NCAA Championships. At number 5, 3 lacrosse walk-off wins. First for the men at Colorado College, it's Chase Kusko scoring in overtime to give the Mules the 14-13 win. Then for the women, at Swarthmore, Jillian Kubikowski scores in overtime to give the Mules the big Centennial Conference road win. And for the men in overtime at Gettysburg, it's Jack Bill scoring in overtime for the 12-11 win. And from lacrosse walk-offs to a football walk-off, Connor Fenstermaker hits this 29-yard field goal as time expires to give the football team a 24-23 win at Franklin and Marshall. That was the first field goal of its kind in 40 years at Muhlenberg. At number 3, Centennial Conference softball semifinal, Muhlenberg trailing Swarthmore 5-4 in the 5th inning before Kaya May hits this 2-run homer to give the Mules a 6-5 lead. Next batter, next pitch. It's Jillian Zach hitting a home run. The Mules go up 7-5 en route to reaching the Centennial Conference Final, first back-to-back postseason home runs in program history. At number 2, Jack Reichenbach breaking 2 skull records en route to earning Centennial Conference Field Athlete of the Year honors. He high jumped 6'10.5" to break a 3-year-old school record, and long jumped 23'11" to break a 108-year-old school record. And at number 1, in the 2024 Division III football season, there were 8 receptions, rushes, or returns of 99 yards or longer, and Muhlenberg had 2 of them in its game at Moravian. Christopher Short returning a kickoff 100 yards for a touchdown, and then in the second half, it's Christopher Ardito catching a 99-yard touchdown pass from Joe Rapetti. But the Mules weren't done with the long plays. Rapetti to Matthew Manning for 92 yards against Ursinus, and then Rapetti to Andrew Darno for 90 yards in the Centennial Mac Bowl Series win against Widener. The Mules the only team in all of NCAA football with more than one 90-yard touchdown pass on the season. They had 3, and the 4 90-yard plays are our number 1 plays of the year. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with our first regular plays of the week on Monday, January 7th, 2025. Happy New Year, and go Mules!